Welcome, Dan, and thank you very much for joining us from the Precinct strategy. We are at the Bruges Group's Freedom Zone at the Conservative Party conference, where, of course, the Conservative Party is currently in the middle of a leadership election, and there's several candidates for leadership, 4 in total. The candidate we're backing and hope to succeed Rishi Sunak as leader of the Conservative Party is Robert Jenrick. He seems to be the most sound. He talks about the issue of immigration and, of course, protecting our culture and indeed our identity from the problems that we're facing through mass immigration, which is really the key issue of our time. But
yeah, absolutely,
we have a mission at the Bruges Group to, of course, not only restore Thatcherite principles to the Conservative Party, the principles that gave her a massive workable majority in the House of Commons, enabling her to transform and, in effect, make Britain great again, to coin a phrase, transform this country in the 1980s and really saved us from the damage caused by the Labour Party. That's part of our mission. Again, we need to remember those principles started by Margaret Thatcher, who, of course, was the founding president of the Bruges Group. But there's another mission, and that is, of course, to democratise the Conservative Party. For far too long, it's been dominated by a clique, a small clique that doesn't represent British society and has only been self-serving and, in a sense, quasi-socialist, thinking they can be more effective than the small socialists than the socialists, and indeed run socialism better than the actual socialist. And what was the result? Well, the highest tax burden in the UK under a Conservative government since the late 1940s. And, of course, a massive 3 trillion debt, equivalent to 100% of GDP. Of course, say in the US, you might think 3 trillion is small, but for us, it's a very large amount, the United Kingdom being a small island. But we need to restore democracy to the Conservative Party and get the members back in control. And part of that mission is, of course, borrowing from what you, Dan, have managed to achieve in the United States with the Republican Party and the Precinct strategy. So this is a session where we're discussing what we call the Constituency strategy, where we'll be asking you some questions about what you've managed to achieve in America and how you have managed to really save the Republican Party from being just part of the uni party to making it a party again that aims to make America great again. And we very much hope that in the election in November, that the Americans will have, your fellow citizens will have the opportunity to make sure that there's some good people elected to the Senate and Congress and, of course, to the White House. We have a long path to go here in the United Kingdom, but we have to put people back in control of the Conservative Party, the ordinary members. So tell us about what you've achieved in America, please, Dan.
Well, we've had some successes across the country, but simply not enough. And I'm not optimistic at all about what's coming in November. I hope I'm wrong, but the bottom line is this: although we've made some great strides in some places where if you get a majority of conservatives to become precinct committeemen in your local Republican committee, and then when it comes time to elect the officers, they should be conservatives if you're organized sufficiently. It's all explained at precinctstrategy.com, my site, precinctstrategy.com. And I've got there, why and how to become a precinct committeeman, how to find your local committee. And then also we've got a communications and collaboration platform, which the party does not give us. When you become a precinct committeeman, if you walk into your committee and go, okay, so I've become a committeeman, how do I communicate with all of the other, like online with all the members of this committee? There's no software for that. Think of that. But there is, and it's free. And my friend Robert Beadles, who is a entrepreneur and has a technology company in Washoe County, Nevada. I met him online through Steve Bannon's War Room. He saw me on Bannon's War Room and I came on his program. And I said, we don't have such thing. He goes, really? And I go, yeah, we don't have any communications method. You know, we don't have an online forum. So, well, I can build that for you. And 6 weeks later, it was up and running. And it's real simple. And so you can learn about it at precinctstrategy.com. But we've had some other successes. So, for example, in Hawaii, the Hawaiian conservative Republicans who have joined the party, they insist the Hawaii Republican Party is the most corrupt, and they kind of brag about it. But they've succeeded in invading it with enough conservatives. So when it came time to elect at their state convention a new state chairman, they had already elected their new state chairman. She's a conservative. I've talked to her. And then they elected a new national committeeman and a national committee woman. All three of them are going to replace fake Republicans, establishment fake Republicans on the RNC. And that things like that have happened in Colorado, Nebraska, Michigan, and about 7 or 8 other states at least, Idaho, I believe Montana. But it's not happening in enough states yet, but we are making progress. And it's all about participating in the process. Here in the United States, in the Republican Party, if all of the slots would be filled, I said, they're referred to as the lowest level slots, but really they're the highest level slots, because the precinct committeemen are up here, and I've got graphics that explain this, and they elect everybody in the party to be the officers, the people who run the apparatus. If all the slots are filled, that means about 1 out of 125 Republicans are involved in our party. Right now, we only have about 1 out of 300 involved. And that's the problem. We haven't made enough strides. And I've been trying to get President Trump to become the so-called recruiter in chief of precinct committeemen. He endorsed my strategy on February 27 of 2022, but he's not recruiting. And somebody around him must be telling him not to recruit. He's got my book. He's told people, this book, you ought to get this book. This is one of the 2 most important books that every conservative should have. You can get it via my website. It's a real catchy title, How to Get Into the Real Ball Game of Politics, Where You Live to Help President Donald J. Trump Make America Great Again. It's basic American civics, which I learned in 7th grade. We've got to participate. We don't have enough participants. And I know you're suffering from the same thing in the UK. And we've got to change that. We've all got to become recruiting machines. We've all got to recruit, and tell people that it's rewarding, that you'll feel good about yourself. And if you like to, observe people, you're going to observe some real interesting people if you get involved in party politics, because there's all sorts, as you know. Some are good, some are bad, and some are just weird. But that's okay. If they're weird and conservative, okay, they're on my side, and I want them to recruit more people. If every single conservative in the United States who was already in our party, we have about 100,000 up, 400,000, 200,000 vacancies. If every single conservative would recruit 2 more, we'd be at full strength. But nobody recruits. So that's what I'm constantly telling people to do. You've got to become a recruiter. Recruit your friends, recruit your family members. It's hard. Nobody wants to do anything. And if we don't step up to the plate in enough numbers, we're going to lose our republics. It's that simple.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about getting involved, isn't it? And in a sense,
absolutely,
there are less people involved in politics now, but that gives us an opportunity. It just takes a handful of people in the constituencies in the UK to transform it. Just join, get involved, introduce some new energy, take over and start selecting the right candidates. I guess the same is the same situation in America with your precincts.
Yes, absolutely. It's all about participating. And the RNC, if you go to the RNC's website, that's GOP.com. There's 3 things missing. 1, why and how you ought to become a precinct committeeman. There's nothing on that site. Number 2, how to find your local committee. Nothing on that site. And then, and by the way, if you get on, if you become one of us and come into the party, you'll be able to communicate with one another easily all your new cohorts, you'll be able to communicate with them online on a platform. That's not there either because they don't provide one. All three of those things are at precinctstrategy.com. I basically got tired of trying to get the RNC to do what I thought they ought to be doing, which was common sense. They won't do it because they don't want any more new people. They don't want this secret to get out. It's an open secret. Civics. They don't teach civics anymore. I was lucky way back in 1968 and 1969. I got taught how important the political parties are. And our teacher told us if our country ever gets into a crisis, now I was in 7th grade and the voting age was 21 then, it's 18 now. When you turn 21, and our country, if it happens to be in a political crisis, I've told you now what to do. The reason it's in a political crisis is because collectively Americans have been electing bad people who are running the levers of government in bad ways. And it's real easy to fix that. You take them out in the next primary election, all the incumbents, you get involved in your party, you grow it, you back better candidates challenging those incumbents, and you remove them all. And under our system here in the United States, every 2 years, the entire House of Representatives can be replaced and 1/3 of the senators. But right now, about 98% of them, maybe 99% of them, win their primaries with turnouts like 20%, 25%. We can change that, and I know we can do it because I did it for a candidate in the Arizona Senate who was challenging an incumbent fake Republican, and we took him out in the primary, and the guy didn't even see us coming, and we used the precinct committeeman strategy. We boosted turnout of the lower information, lower propensity voters with only 3 hours of effort each for each of one of our supporters, because most people will only give you about 3 hours of grunt work. But if they'll give you the 3 hours, if you explain to them, this is going to work because we're going to boost turnout of these Republicans who don't normally vote in a primary. We've identified them. The party gives you software that allows you to do this. It's real simple. And that's what we've got to do. We've got to recruit more people. We've got to recruit more people. We've got to recruit more people. And so I have a 3-step strategy for restoring America. Step 1 is pray. I recommend 2 Chronicles 7:14. And then step 2 is recruit precinct committee. And then step 3 is repeat. Pray, recruit precinct committeeman, repeat. And that's all I do. And we are making progress, but not enough, not fast enough for my liking. And the numbers don't lie. So we will see, won't we, in about 35 days, I think it is, to November 5, we're going to have a huge referendum, so to speak, on the state of America. Are we going to save the republic or not? And I'm not optimistic because we haven't made enough progress yet. But I hope I'm wrong. I pray that I'm wrong.
What efforts are being taken in America to ensure election integrity? Of course, if people aren't involved with their local precinct or over here, their local constituency, the ruling party that would be dominating a constituency or precinct would be able to continue to, in some cases, take actions which are not necessarily in line with the spirit, perhaps sometimes even with the letter of election law. By getting involved, you can keep an eye on the other side and hold them to account, as well as, of course, your own people. What efforts are being taken in America, in the United States, to ensure election integrity? So come the vote in November, we can be sure that it's going to be real people that are voting, people that actually live in their state that will be voting, and people actually turning up to vote rather than having someone else take their vote, or indeed postal ballots produced from under tables in luggage are being brought out like last time. What efforts are being taken to make sure that doesn't happen again? What happened in 2020 doesn't happen this time, and 2024 will be a free and fair election?
Well, all sorts of things are happening. So, for example, I heard on the radio this morning, I tuned into an Arizona station that I used to live, because I'm not in Arizona anymore, I'm in Wisconsin. But I tuned in and they had a guest on, and they had just gotten some good news that I believe it was the U.S. Supreme Court denied an appeal on a piece of legislation to which was passed by the state legislature. The Democrats sued to try to knock it down, and it quickly went through the appeals courts all the way up to the Supreme Court. I believe this is what he said. I caught it halfway through, where it said Arizona's new law that says only American citizens can vote in the state elections. Persons can vote in the federal elections, but in the state election, if you're not a legal citizen, you cannot vote. And that was up. The appeal to try to strike that down was denied by the Supreme Court. So that's just one example. The other thing that we're doing is, again, the Trump campaign in coordination with the RNC has set up a website called protectthevote.com, urging people to sign up with them and then be assigned a poll worker position where you get paid by the local government. We never have enough Republicans. And then also be a poll observer where you are trained on what to look for as an official observer of the Republican Party at a polling place. And we never have enough of them. So I've signed up for that, to be a poll observer or a poll worker, whatever they want me to do, on election day and then the days preceding when we have these voting centers. And then the other thing is to get involved with Get Out the Vote, and that's TrumpForce47.com, TrumpForce47.com, to have a massive turnout and hopefully have it massive on election day. There's a lot of people are saying, well, you got to vote early to bank your vote, and that's stupid. See, you guys aren't using the machines anymore in London, I learned, I think from you or Philip. But that's good news. But we're still using these machines, and we fail to get rid of these machines. And so what I'm advocating everybody do is become a poll worker, become a poll observer, and then urge everyone to, if you have to have a backup plan to vote early because you might have to go out of town or something like that, or maybe you're not feeling well, you have chronic colds or whatever it is, whatever the case may be, have a backup plan, but plan to vote on election day. And see, if you get a vote by mail ballot in the United States as a backup, and let's say that on election day, the lines are really long and they're having printer problems. Well, if you've got that vote by mail ballot, you can vote it and put it in the envelope and sign the back and drop it in a box. You don't have to stand in line. So we got to put on our thinking caps and have massive turnout on election day. Those are the things that are going to help, but we never have enough volunteers. So again, it's that participation dilemma that we have. We just don't have enough conservative Republicans here in the United States who are willing to sacrifice some of their time to learn how to be a poll worker, learn how to be a poll observer, and then help get out the vote as well. It's a participation problem that we have, but we're working on it.
Word of mouth is always the best form of marketing. So it's going to take people like yourselves and ourselves, a constituency strategy, to get involved, to tell other people and to tell them how they can vote and how they can exercise their democratic rights, like you mentioned in the United States, with filling in a postal ballot and returning that. If the lines are too long, sometimes, we understand in the United States there can be excessively long voting lines, and it's not always well managed, particularly in democratic run states, perhaps deliberately so. How confident are you that the cabal, in a sense, it seems that just like the Conservative Party in the UK has been run by a cabal, even when Margaret Thatcher was the leader and of course the Prime Minister, there were still those who were seeking to undermine what she was trying to achieve, and in some cases prevented her from making the reforms that Britain fully needed. How confident are you that in America, that those people who are behind the scenes, in a sense, and trying to undermine, for instance, President Trump, can indeed be stopped, and the public can have their say directly and have the Constitution work as it's meant to, which is, of course, the government not run by agencies and those who are not accountable, but by laws passed in Congress and of course the executive orders of an accountable president in the White House. How confident are you that there can be change?
I'm supremely confident that it can be changed, because we do have, as you know, as imperfect as our system is, it is still the best system in, you know, our opinion, my opinion. But again, making it happen and thinking about it in a theoretical sense are two different things. We simply don't yet have enough people who want to get involved. I'll see on Twitter, again, last night, somebody said, well, Donald Trump must win this election or else. And so I said, you know, I felt like, you know, posting a picture of Captain Obvious. You know, there's a thing in America, one of the, I think it's an insurance company, has a Captain Obvious guy, or no, it's something for buying airline tickets or something. Anyways, okay, so I asked the guy, how do you propose to make that happen? And see, that's the disconnect. Everybody thinks yelling and screaming at the current crop of the, you know, the cabal, the Republicans who pretend to, who are not really Republicans, that we keep reelecting. They seem to think if we just yell at those people loud enough and surround the capitals, you know, the state capital. I know some people are saying, here's what we got to do. We got to go surround all the state capitals with huge crowds. Well, if you can organize that, why don't you organize all those people to become precinct committeemen? That would make a hell of a lot more sense. Or why don't you organize all of those people? We're going to take a day off of their life to go drive all the way to their state capital. Why don't you have them instead go stand in line at the next Republican Party committee meeting, or call their local committee chairman and say, hey, I want to be a poll worker. I want to be a poll observer. I also want to become a precinct committeeman. Why don't you tell them to do that? See, that's the problem. So I'm supremely confident that we can do it. I'm not confident at all that we're going to do it. People just don't know what to do. They'll sit down and they go, I got to do something. Oh, I know. Let's start a truck convoy, without thinking, how in the hell is that truck convoy going to accomplish anything? You know? And so I just keep pounding away, pounding it away. We got to participate in party politics. It's that simple. I learned it in 7th grade. I put it in my little book. You can read this in 25 minutes. You know, it's not rocket science. It's 7th grader stuff, but we're not enough of us now adults are doing it, and we're not enough of us are teaching our children. I have taught mine. They have become precinct committeemen. One of them was a state committeeman who got to vote for who the state chair was. Another one of them was a state convention delegate, got to vote for who the national committeeman and the national committee woman was. That was during COVID. We had to do it remotely, but they participated. I taught them this stuff because they were getting taught it in the public school system, and I knew it because I looked at all of the curricula, and they weren't getting taught it, so I taught them myself. And that's what we got to do. We got to teach our kids. We got to teach our friends and neighbors. Go to precinctstrategy.com, my site. It's all there. It's not difficult. The missing ingredient in the precinct committeeman strategy simply is this: we don't have enough people who want to do it.
Yeah, behind us at the big screen, I know you can't see it, but our audience can. We've got about the precinct strategy. We've got projected up there. And of course, we also mentioned about the constituency strategy in the UK. And you're exactly right. This is what we need to do. We need people to get involved. Those who may be unhappy with the Conservative Party at the moment and think it's not been doing what it's meant to be doing, that it hasn't been actually trying to conserve at all, let alone, of course, taking forward the ideas of people like Thatcher and Reagan, who knew how to restore economic growth, just like President Trump did during his term of office, which we very much hope will begin again in January 25. But what it's about is about ordinary people just getting involved, having their say, joining their local party, their local Conservative Party, becoming perhaps an activist there, delivering leaflets, campaigning, recruiting new people, but also doing what some people may think is mundane, signing new people up, going to committee meetings and choosing the candidates, making sure that the processes which exist within both, for instance, the Republican Party in the United States and the Conservative Party in the UK, the mechanisms which already exist for people to have their say and to have influence can indeed change things. And, you know, yes, it may take several general elections to have a say, to make sure that our ideas filter through. But then again, it took Reagan in the United States many years to become president since he first began his journey into politics. It took Margaret Thatcher time to transform the economy in the United Kingdom. And of course, Brexit, one of the big things my organization was campaigning for, it took us decades to achieve, but we got there. And of course, the project to make America great again, perhaps it won't be successful in November. I pray that it will, but eventually it's got to get there, because what alternative is there? But of course, winning. That's what we need to do. But what it takes is for us to get involved at the local level and start influencing things, selecting the right candidates, going to meetings. But of course, you know, I did mention that it can be considered mundane. Well, actually, as we both know, both the Republican Party and the Conservative Party at the local level, there will be the opportunity to meet people. There will be the infamous cheese and wine parties for people to meet and greet, to meet their parliamentary candidates, to meet their potential council candidates, to have a good time and to meet others. And so when we're not discussing politics or thinking about how we can transform our parties, it's actually a great way of getting out there and meeting new people and indeed having an opportunity to socialize with like-minded people. So we've taken your message to the Conservative Party conference. We're going to hope that others are going to redouble their efforts and join the constituency strategy team in the UK and really start transforming British politics and hopefully making sure that the party represents its members and follows what its members want to do, rather than just what the media is pushing for at one particular time, and the interests that operate behind the scenes, both to the detriment of the United States and the UK, where unaccountable people have far too much say, particularly our own civil service here. So thank you very much, Dan. It's a pleasure to have you on again. We've got a whole series of meetings to go, and other Conservative speakers wanting to meet and greet their audience and take their message out to the public. And hopefully this is perhaps a low point for Conservatism, but from here it's just up is the only way forward. We're confident of that. Thank you, Dan.
Yep.
Pleasure to have you on again.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Good
yeah,
luck.
You're an absolute inspiration, and thanks for being here.
Let's keep in touch and work together and get this thing done.
It's my pleasure, and we'll be telling people about your book. Absolutely. Thank you.